Hey, good evening. It's Tiffin. It's Monday evening about 5 o'clock Pacific time. And I got a little distracted. Zoom is now telling me that I'm recording the meeting. The unexpected, right? So it's been a while since I've shared a recorded message or thoughts on the current astrology. And this week is powerful. We are in the potent energy of the eclipse portal. On Wednesday morning early is the full moon in Sagittarius, and this is a total lunar eclipse. It's exact at 4:13 in the morning, Wednesday, Pacific time. And right now, the moon is in Scorpio, and it's in a conversation with Saturn in Aquarius that is a 90-degree challenging aspect of the moon, our conscious our unconscious emotional experience and energy, perception, the moon in Scorpio is calling us to get to the truth, to feel deeply, to feel the full range of emotions, and to find the truth. Scorpio is about depth and truth and empowered feeling by owning our shadows, by being willing to look in the dark and in the scary places. And when it confronts the planet Saturn, there's a like a stand up straight and shoulders back, take this seriously. Saturn is the energy of the teacher, of karma, and of doing our work and having our lessons. And the planet Saturn turned stationary retrograde on Sunday, which means that Saturn's been at the midpoint around 13 degrees of Aquarius for the last few weeks, and it recently appeared to change direction in the sky. And that retrograde period means that the Saturn energy of expressing our authority, being the teacher and the serious worker in our lives, taking our lessons seriously, is turned inward. It's a time to reflect on how have we been doing our work? How have we been showing up for our communities, for the collective? How are we playing our part in the collective matrix of humanity? How are we showing up? And boy, so many ways of looking at that, so many facets to this Aquarian. I think of Aquarius as disco ball energy, and I think I've mentioned this before, where each of the little mirrors make up the whole, but there are unique perspectives. And in Sagittarius, it really is about the collective and how each of us has a unique role to play, a unique light to shine, a unique mirror to reflect. And with Saturn in Aquarius, it's been here since December in the sign of Aquarius, and it's really asking us to step into greater personal authority and responsibility for the collective and however we envision that. And so, boy, I mean, I can think of any number of things in the collective. How are we working with the pandemic? How are we working with, starting to expand and loosen the restrictions around where we can go, how we can interact with each other? The planet Saturn has the rings, and it's about what are those boundaries and restrictions? How do we give things form? And those forms are changing. Saturn all year, all 2021 is also in that square conversation with the planet Uranus, which is in Taurus, which is awakening and shifting things and asking us to really shake things up. What's the form, the earth element form of how we hold our value, what we find important, what we hold as, grounded and real. And Uranus there is having us shake that up. There have been quite a few literal shakeups of the earth, a lot of earthquake and volcanic activity since Uranus has moved into Taurus. And the expression of Uranus square Saturn, talked about this, but the energy of it is really to wake up more to our own values, our own sense of groundedness and being embodied, and also how are we showing up in our groups of friends, in our families, in our communities, in our political selves, our countries, our sense of ourselves as world citizens. And even Aquarius asks us, like, consider that we are universal citizens. We are galactic citizens. You know, it's out beyond the sense of boundary. So it has that futuristic, what's possible, and let's really expand our sense of how we belong. And so this week holds that potent energy of Saturn turning retrograde, really like, okay, time to really question those things in ourselves. How can we step into more personal responsibility? How can we step more into our authority? And how can we take on that mantle of citizenship to our local communities, our groups, the greater good? What can we do individually to contribute, to show up powerfully? And lots of expressions of that. So don't hear that like there's a demand for any specific kind of action, but this is more a time to reflect on that and decide for yourself, what is true for you? What is your gift? What are your unique skills and energies to contribute to us all moving forward and evolving? And evolving isn't a real energy of this eclipse season. We have the full moon at the point in the sky called the South Node. And that's an evolutionary karmic point of energy for the past, for what we have collectively experienced and come to a certain level of mastery around, that it's time to release. It is time to release some of those long-held beliefs and stories we tell ourselves. The Sagittarian energy is about our worldview and how we see the world and what we believe, what we have faith in. And this full moon can have us experience on an emotional level a new way of seeing that, or feeling into, what is it time for me to let go of? What stories have I been telling myself, or things, beliefs I've been leaning on out of habit, that I can really let go of at this point? And that can be around anything. And for those of you who work with your birth chart, look to the house in your chart. What are the themes of that part of your chart that hold 5 degrees of Sagittarius? And that'll give you an idea of what those beliefs or stories might be around. It might be around your sense of self, or your sense of home and family, or your sense of relationship, or what you see as your worldview and your beliefs of what's possible. Okay, any of these areas are possible. June 10th, we have our new moon in Gemini, and this is a North Node eclipse, solar eclipse, in the sign of Gemini. This is the evolutionary energy that we're all being called to while the North Node is in Gemini. And this means we're all being asked to be more flexible mentally, to be able to consider other perspectives and entertain multiple points of view, and be curious, and to hold things lightly. Gemini energy is social and flexible and has an agility of mind, and is drawn to different and new ideas, concepts, conversations, people. You might have been feeling yourself over the last few days, as the sun's been in Gemini, feeling a little more social, or a little more like extending yourself to new people, or to starting new conversations, or asking friends different types of questions, being curious about how people are experiencing this sort of re-entry into the world, or what are you discovering about yourself now that you can, interact in different ways? Are you going back to the way you were in early 2020 or 2019? Are you finding new ways of seeing yourself, or new perspectives on the world around you? That's what we're being pointed to. And these themes, these Gemini themes that we've been in while Venus and Mercury have been in Gemini the last few weeks, while the sun's been here for a few days, We're going to have a chance to reflect on those and to review and revisit and refine them as Mercury goes into its retrograde phase from May 29th to June 22nd. So we'll have a 3-week period with Mercury and Gemini to really revisit, re-explore, re-question those topics. Those Gemini bits of information can be a lot like proofreading or editing, like a brain dump of ideas. Gemini encourages us to generate a lot of ideas. And you might play with this energy and do a lot of brainstorming for yourself. Like, what are the things that you want? What are you interested in? If you could study new things or try new things or go new places, what are all those possibilities for you? And see how that might open up more flexibility in your mind and in your heart. Mercury retrograde, we've talked about it a lot here in the group, lots of different versions of it. And this is a potent Mercury retrograde because Mercury's in one of its home signs, Gemini. And Mercury rules Gemini and Virgo. And so when it's at home in its sign, it's speaking its own language, it's really comfortable and it can be more powerful. And so we have that gift of an extended stay of Mercury in Gemini, both in the direct expression like we've had for the last a little while and in the retrograde period from the end of May to June 22nd, really experiencing that internally. Where is your own curiosity? Where's your own mental flexibility? How can you see the world with more light, more humor, more permission to try and taste things and sample and graze? It's a very much a kind of a flirty, social, superficial kind of an energy of like just little tastes of things. I picture hummingbirds or butterflies like just going to all the different flowers in the garden and really not staying too long at any one, but tasting, sampling, interacting, and getting a little bit from each one. So no matter what your native Mercury style, you can have Mercury in any of the 12 signs of the zodiac, depending on your chart. Gemini might not be a familiar way of perceiving the world, but we're all invited to experience that during this time. So I invite you to do that. There's a lot going on. And with Gemini season, I think it's really helpful to give ourselves permission to hold things lightly, to experiment, to try, to taste, to get curious, to see what sparks our interest. What are those shiny bits that show up in your day? How can you learn something new? If you have an idea or someone shares something, a word or a concept, it's like, yeah, Google can be a really great tool during this time. Like, oh, I don't really know much about that concept or that idea. Let me just see what else is there to know about it, or how else could I see that? So communication is highlighted during Gemini season. How we perceive things, what we think about them, what we talk about them. You might find yourself, like I'm noticing myself, talking really fast and just kind of on the surface of it, right? We get to experience the deeper experience with the moon. As the moon today is in Scorpio, this can be a deeper dive. What are you really feeling under the surface? How is that emotional energy and awareness building towards the full moon? And what's at that core depth, like your innermost secret self? What's the truth there emotionally? The moon in Scorpio. So we can tap into those deeper, more substantive, soulful energies through the moon, through Pluto and Capricorn, which is now retrograde as well. So asking us to feel into our inner sense of foundation and what we're building on. How are we rebuilding our sense of foundation in ourselves? And Mars is activating Pluto It's in opposition from the sign of Cancer to Capricorn. Mars, our motivations are connected to our emotions while Mars is in Cancer. So really pay attention to, what do you feel like doing? What do you feel like taking action on? And allow that intuitive emotional sense, your perception through your emotions, to really guide how you take action and what you're motivated to do. Some suggestions. I'm really excited about exploring more of these themes myself and looking at, I love that, the curiosity, but for me, the curiosity to go deeper. What is it I really want to explore and give my attention and my energy to these days? What is it? What are those really earnest, soulful questions? What is it that has meaning for me now? Where are my beliefs? How am I framing my morals and ethics now? These are all Sagittarian questions. And as this full moon, I want to open to, like, really emotionally tap into, what do I believe? What do I hold as important and meaningful in my life? And what have I been operating? Where in my life have I been operating out of beliefs or stories that are no longer true for me, or that have evolved and changed over time? So this is a great opportunity over the next few weeks between the eclipses to get current with yourself, to do some self-inquiry and investigate, what are those stories I tell myself about who I am, about how I show up in the world, about what matters to me, who's important to me. And out of those beliefs and that worldview, how am I showing up now? And get curious, how can I refresh this? The Gemini energy can be very refreshing and bringing in new perspectives and current interests. And so I invite you to explore that for yourself. I am offering one-on-one sessions if you want to explore some of these questions and themes more personally. I bring my listening and questioning skills as a coach, bring my astrology, wisdom, knowledge, language of astrology and archetypes to your personal chart to help guide you in your journey, in your exploration of who you are and what's important to you and where you want to be giving your life force energy. If that's appealing, please send me a message. Please get in touch and we can set something up. I hope life is going well. I know time and energy has been very chaotic feeling for me, finding my way into what is life like now? How can I interact with friends and family? How can I expand and open myself up to more social connection after 15 months of being very self-contained, isolated, and internal? As many of you know, and as I've talked about before, I spent much of 2020 searching for my birth family and finding new relatives, new to me relatives. And I'm starting to meet people. I met one of my half-sisters in April, and I'm planning a visit early June to meet another one of my half-sisters. They're actually twins, and Gemini is the sign of the twins. So I love that connection for me. And it's been a while since I connected with my stepbrothers, who are also twins. And so I'm taking that as a big wink from the universe of, like, give attention to the twins in your life. It's a very literal interpretation, but it's a fun one for me. And it's helped bringing me out a little bit more. So I hope you have a really powerful, beautiful week. Know that the astrology is inviting us into an intense reflection period of, what do we believe and how are we applying ourselves in a responsible, mature authority that is really authentically aligned to who you are, each of us. All right, have a great evening. I'll talk with you again soon. Take care.